Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my presentation on emotional regulation and autism spectrum disorder. We're going to pull up this presentation now and go ahead and get started this evening. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Yes, I want to share. Hold on one second here, guys. We're going to get started. All right, we're sharing my screen here. So you should be able to see my screen as soon as we power up here, and we'll get started. All right, so emotional regulation and autism spectrum disorder. Um, Let me pull up the slideshow and we'll get started here. All right. So, Emotional Regulation and Autism by Travis Breeding. Um, Today, we're going to talk about emotions and how we regulate those in typical individuals, and then how people with autism regulate those emotions, and just to see what we can come up with and help you give a better understanding of what emotional regulation is in autism spectrum disorder. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for participating in this PowerPoint presentation about my experience with emotional regulation in relationship to autism spectrum disorder. In this presentation, I will discuss the difficulty I have with emotional regulation and how I can become overloaded by my own emotions, as well as the emotions of others. I will also provide 20 key strategies that a parent or professional can use to help someone process their emotions in a more proactive social way. Finally, I will conclude by providing 10 tips on how to generalize and apply social behavior to emotions. And what that means is, we'll talk about this later, but your social behavior needs to match your emotion, which means it also needs to match your friends' emotions or your peers' emotions. And that being said, that means that your social behavior needs to also match your friends' emotions. So, like, first, for that to happen, your personal emotions have to match your friends' emotions or your peers' emotions, or whoever you're talking to, before your social behavior can ever begin to match their emotions as well. My experience with emotional regulation. As someone on the autism spectrum, I have experienced difficulty with emotional regulation. I find that my own emotions can become overwhelming and I can become overloaded with them. I feel like I am constantly fighting my own emotions, and this can be exhausting. Similarly, I can also become overwhelmed by the emotions of other people. This can make it difficult for me to interact with others in a meaningful way and to understand what is going on in the social situation. Strategies for emotional regulation. There are a number of strategies that a parent or professional can use to help someone with autism regulate their emotions. These strategies can include teaching relaxation and calming strategies, identifying and labeling emotions, exploring the cause of emotions, developing problem solving skills, developing self acceptance and self compassion, setting reasonable expectations, problem solving with a mentor, learning to recognize triggers, identifying and developing coping skills, practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is a big one that I like to practice, and lately it's been working. It's actually a really great intervention. If you can connect your mind to your body, your brain to your body, and just be present in the moment. Because, like, guys, you might be able to learn a skill if you're not present, kind of technically learn it a little bit, but you're sure not going to be able to generalize and apply that skill in different contexts and different social environments if you're not present in the moment. So that's a big deal. Oops, skipping ahead here. Utilizing sensory approaches for calming, utilizing calming music, learning to recognize emotions in others, and utilizing visual supports for emotions. More strategies: developing communication skills, learning to recognize the consequences of emotions, utilizing role playing to practice social interactions. Yes, BCBAs, you can role play, RBTs can role play with the client to learn those important social interaction skills. And developing social skills is a big key to this. You have to have social skills to be able to match social behavior with the emotional response of other people, and social responses and things like that. And lastly but not least, we are talking about utilizing positive reinforcement. That's a big one. BCBAs and RBTs need to know that. and seeking help from professionals like you guys. Matching social behaviors to context. This is important. One of the most important aspects of emotional regulation is learning to match our social behaviors to the context of the emotions we are feeling, as well as the emotions that other people are feeling. This means responding appropriately to the emotions of the people around us rather than responding out of context or without consideration of their feelings. Examples of matching social behaviors. One example of this is learning to recognize when someone is feeling anxious or overwhelmed. In this situation, we should respond in a calming and supportive way, rather than an aggressive or confrontational manner. Similarly, if someone is feeling excited or enthusiastic, we should match their energy level and respond in a positive and encouraging way. 10 tips for generalizing social behaviors. Before we talk about this, I want to tell you a story about my friend. My friend Heather and me, we've been friends for 12 years and we're really good friends. And so she actually had her father pass away in 2014. And I picked up on it right away. I knew she didn't tell me, but I knew something was wrong because I could read her emotions. Like I could read her through texting because she just wasn't texting me the same way. And she said something was wrong, but she didn't tell me what. So I found out in the newspaper that her father had passed away. And then immediately I started wanting to fix everything for her. Like I had to fix all of her problems. So like my first instinct was my social behavior response was to send her a dozen roses, to want to send her a dozen roses every day for 2 weeks, to want to have food ordered at a restaurant delivered to her house every day for 2 weeks, and just all kinds of and things like that. And the problem with that is like I was more emotionally distraught, not more emotionally distraught than she was, but I picked up on her emotions wrong. Like I picked up on her emotions out of context. So I was over the top. So I'm an all or nothing black or white thinker. So someone's either going to be really, really, really sad or really, really, really happy. And she was somewhere in the middle. And that was challenging for me because I didn't understand how to read the grayness of that situation. So therefore my social behavior response was to the fact that she was so distraught that she would need fixed or need help. She would need me to make it better for her. That's better. That sounds better than fixing it. But basically, I just needed to fix the situation because that was my emotions. That was how I read her emotions. Was I needed to fix the situation. So 10 tips. Learn to recognize when someone is feeling a certain emotion and respond appropriately. Be aware of your own emotions and how you can become overwhelmed. Develop problem-solving skills to cope with different emotions. This is a big one. You want to be able to problem solve through your emotions without relying on your friend's emotions. Like a lot of times in the past, I would often rely on my friend's emotions because I didn't like my emotions. So I lived through her emotions. So if she was feeling sad, I was feeling sad. If she was feeling happy, I was feeling happy. I was basically matching her with my emotions because her emotions felt better than mine. Because of my autism and the social struggle that I had, I was very depressed a lot of the time, and that made me a really complex person to deal with. And so I matched my emotions with hers because her emotions were better and it felt better. Practice mindfulness to stay present and centered. Moving on. Utilize calming strategies such as deep breathing or music to relax. Identify and label emotions to gain a better understanding of time. Learn to recognize the consequences of your emotions. That's a big one. Maybe emotions don't have consequences that you can think of or see, but your social behavior certainly has consequences, and your behavior is going to be attributed to those emotions that you're feeling. So therefore, it generalizes that your emotions have consequences because of your social behavior in response to those emotions. Develop communication skills to better express yourself. That's a big one. That should be something we're constantly working on, is working with autistic people to better communicate who they are and better express themselves with other people. Utilize positive reinforcement to reinforce positive emotions. Yes, positive reinforcement works with emotions. The more you encourage me to be positive, the more I'm going to be positive. Seek help from a professional counselor if needed, or a therapist, or anyone that can help you with your CBT issues, or ACT therapy. ACT therapy is a really good tool to have. ACT. Stephen Hayes is really good if you can check him out. But actually, ABA is really helpful for me, and we'll talk more about that later. So in conclusion, emotional regulation can be difficult for those on the autism spectrum, yet it is an essential skill to learn. Through understanding and utilizing the strategies and tips discussed in this presentation, We can help those on the autism spectrum better regulate their emotions and navigate social situations more effectively. Thank you guys for listening today and learning, and information is below. Feel free to contact me. Thanks for watching.